please.
Yes.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. First item of business is the land acknowledgement statement for the town of Smith Falls. On Wednesday, July 26, 2023, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. Next is the approval of the agenda. Are we adding anything to the agenda? Chris?
I'm not sure if priority issues or project updates, but I'd like to add the 25 Old Mill Road, since we received that report on the stabilization.
Let's make it a priority issue, number 2 then.
Okay, great.
Anything else to add? Okay. Would someone move that we adopt the agenda then, please? Class, and a seconder, Marianne, thank you. All in favor? Good. Adoption of the minutes of the June 26th meeting. June 28th, actually.
There was one.
28th. I'm looking for something. Right?
Yeah.
Well, Tony does that. Class, you suggested at the last meeting that you might know somebody who could identify key heritage attributes of the Stone Arch Bridge.
Yes.
Is that
Go
going to
Ty.
be, is that possible?
Yes, yes. As soon as he gets a chance, he's a very busy stone layer.
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
all.
I can't find it
Him and I
now.
will get over there and take a look at it. I have spoke to him about it, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Tony?
There was something in there. I can't find it now. I should have marked it. If I had had a paper copy, I would have marked it, but I was reading it on my laptop. So yeah, I'll just let it go.
Okay. Then would someone move that we adopt the minutes of the June 28th meeting? I will. Marianne, and the seconder? Chris? Thank you. All in favor? Okay. Passed. Disclosure of monetary interest. Anybody? Okay, we'll go ahead then with the priority issues. First one, Carl's going to give us an update on the Heritage Conservation District and what progress is being made.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a quick update for the committee. Council approved the town's new strategic plan on July 17th, and the Heritage Conservation District was included within that. So that's the Heritage Conservation District, of course, is a two-step process. One, the first step is the study. Second step, if council agrees, is to proceed with the actual district plan. That includes the guidelines. So at this point, staff are about halfway done developing a request for proposals for a qualified consultant to undertake the work based on the work and the available information that we already have. So we're hopeful to have that released either in late August or early September. We do have the budget in place this year to get started on that. So that's where we're at right now, and I'd certainly be happy to update the committee next month as to where that's at. But since this was it was budgeted, we don't need it was budgeted, it is included in the strategic plan. We don't need additional council authorization until we actually have a consultant and recommend that consultant be selected to undertake this work.
Okay, Chris?
Is the RFP something that'll come through the committee before it goes out, or is it more of a staff process? Or?
Well, typically RFPs are reviewed internally by staff, but if the committee would like to take a look at it, then I don't have any issue with sharing that with the committee along with our other colleagues.
So Carl, what is the consultant going to do? Like, what is their mandate, or what are you asking them to do?
They would be developing they'd be developing the RFP study itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it builds on some of the work that was already done. It recommends that they follow the requirements of the Heritage Act for the study, which includes developing some recommendations for what would go in what plan, recommending the boundaries. We're identifying the downtown core as designated in the official plan as the study area, but they may recommend a different boundary depending on what they find through their field work and research. But ultimately, they would be coming forward with a suite of recommendations to council in terms of any OP amendments, zoning amendments, as well as what a study could look like. Mm-hmm. And then and if council agrees to proceed with that, then the next step is actually developing the plan with the actual guidelines and the meat and potatoes of what our Heritage Conservation District's plan is and does and regulates.
Okay.
And they would be doing research as well, in addition to whatever research we've already done.
Mm-hmm.
I assume they'd have to, justify the heritage nature of the several of the buildings that would be included. Certainly not all of them.
Certainly. And as we know, work was done by a student years ago, our former planner, and the legislation has changed. So obviously it would need to be looked at and refreshed. But I think there's a lot of background work in there that would really help this process out.
Yes, that was quite in depth what she did. Yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it would, given the passage of time and the change of legislation, it would need a refresh. But by all means, that's a huge amount of work that we don't want to see wasted for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions? Chris?
So just, is it by the August meeting? Do we think we'll see that RFP, or how soon? I think you were saying late August, September kind of thing. Or?
I can certainly, based on where I'm at with the document itself, I think August would definitely be we should have it ready by then. If the committee would like to see and review the RFP before we launch it, then I can target the August meeting to make sure that that's done.
Awesome. This is exciting.
It is, isn't it? Okay, next item is 25 Old Mill Road, and thank you, Carl, for sending us out the recent engineering report so that we all should know what.
I didn't get anything.
It came to us in an email from Carl a little while back.
It did.
Yes, the engineer's report with respect to the preservation option for the water treatment plant building. Or no, I don't think I attached the report to an email. I believe I linked the committee to the council agenda page where the report was accessible.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I read it anyway. Well, I mean, I read most of it. Skipped over some of the really technical stuff. Anyway, this is your item, Chris, so go ahead.
Yeah, so has everybody, Marianne, you didn't get it, but
No.
Has anybody else had a chance to?
I read it, yes.
So really good news in the report that it recommends stabilizing the structures, among other things, and it shows that the cost for stabilization is in the same order of magnitude as demolition. The important thing to note on the demolition numbers in the report is that it only includes the stone and the brick building. It doesn't include the building, the rest of the buildings at the site. So it's a bit of a low ball. I'd say it's very conservative and not really representative of what the total cost would be if the decision was to demolish the whole site. Also in the report that's interesting is it's just for a straight demolition. So if we wanted to preserve materials off it, then that would add further cost to that estimate. So taking all of that into the big picture consideration, I'm not seeing a clear financial reason to choose one option over the other when we've got such a significant repertoire of information on the cultural significance and the industrial heritage of the site and the cultural landscape of the Rideau Canal. To me, that really, if the costs are equal, should sway it in another direction. But as the report, I think the line that kind of sticks with me in the report that kind of scares me is that at the end of the day, it'll be a political decision or something about it being a political decision. So all this to be said, I think we should make another recommendation to council that we get a full costing on the cost of stabilization, because that's going to give us a better idea of, you know what I mean? This is the report gave a Class D estimate. If we can get that narrowed down, get some quotes on it, then we'll have the figures of what it's actually going to cost. And then that will, ideally, if those proposals were accepted, then the work can get moving. So I think, in that recommendation, I was working on something here, but I got held up at work before the meeting, so I didn't get it quite polished up. But just a recommendation that references the designation and the information in that, references the report that was created on June, I think it was 23rd. It was dated from the structural heritage engineer, and then therefore that. The Smith Falls Municipal Heritage Committee recommends to council that the stabilization be further examined or quoted for the stone and 2 brick structures, and then from there, if they go forward with that, then there'll be more information and we can have another recommendation as that comes in. But I think I'm not that attached to. I know in the report, I think what it labeled the buildings 1 to 5, or it gave a number to each building, and those 2 buildings on either end, one's the concrete block garage, and the other's the concrete block. I'm not sure what it was used for, but it's got the peaked roof. I don't think, personally, as an MHC member, I don't see any value in advocating for those 2 buildings and say that we're okay with those being removed, but that the 1800 stone, 1800s brick, and 1924 brick structures be stabilized and secured going forward. So if there's a consensus on that, I can send the exact wording of it to Carl for the minutes.
Sorry, could you repeat which buildings you feel you'd like to focus the preservation on?
Yeah, I'm going to reference them to the numbers in the report, but okay. I just can't get the report to load here. But it's the Gold's Mill,
it's the 1868 stone building, the 1886 brick building, and
1924 brick.
Is it 1924 brick building?
I think so. Yeah.
Those 3.
In reference to the previous documentation we have that says how it tells the industrial history of the site and how the site evolved, and it's important to note that the brick, because we've got so much brick in town, I think it's easy to take it for granted or take it not appreciate it the same way, but that brick, the original waterworks was in the brick building, and the stone building was still a mill when the waterworks first opened, and 2, that building is from the 1800s. It's
building.
Yeah.
And that brick would have come down from Jasper Road, wouldn't it?
Likely, yeah. So there's a lot of history in that brick building, from the materials being sourced locally to the construction of it being pretty cutting edge for the time, and it's got a lot of architectural features in it, from the windows to the So anyway, so that's I don't know. Do we need a motion or I guess?
Yes, I think so.
So I would move that recommendation if there's a seconder.
One second.
Questions?
Oh, sorry, could you, do you have some wording I could use? For, you'll send
I'm
me
going to
some-
send you the exact wording, but yeah, but generally I don't want to read out the whole, like just a little bit on the referencing the designation, referencing the stabilization report, and then therefore the Municipal Heritage Committee of the Town of Smith Falls recommends that pricing for the stabilization be acquired, or I don't know what the process is, if it's an RFP or a tender, be completed, and for the three buildings we just discussed, the old stone mill and the 2 brick structures.
This is kind of off topic. Is there any strategic vision for what might happen to it? Is that any ballparks? What might happen? Though, I mean, the whole area. Is there any scuttlebutt about what people might, what council may be contemplating for that area?
So as far as I know, an RFP was put out multiple times for that site, and the first person or first group that was looking for it came out, and the last group that had the exclusive right to look at it is the Samir company.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know that, obviously the fire, I'm assuming changes
Dynamics, yeah.
the dynamics or evolves the situation, but my understanding is that agreement's still in place, or that's still, but there's been no site plan or nothing in the planning process that would have, you know what I mean, given a vision for the site yet. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to what happens. So that's where, with this recommendation, I'm just keeping it really kind of focused on the next big decision is, are we going to spend money? Are we going to get quotes to stabilize it? Or are we not going to get quotes to stabilize it? And then after we get those quotes, then I'm hoping we can do another recommendation that, yeah, we follow through on them and complete it.
And can we put something that council delay any decision until this is completed?
Well, that I think would be the next decision, right? Because we wouldn't make a decision to demolish and also make a decision to get quotes to stabilize. So yeah, I'm hoping this in turn pushes.
It would be implied.
Yeah.
They would have to renew designation
Oh, that's
before it's demolished.
Yes.
That's a process in itself.
But you know what? Maybe that's a good point. In this recommendation, we specifically say that we do not approve or support any kind of demolition at the site, specifically referencing these 3 important buildings. You know, take out the rest, take out the because yeah, that's probably good just to keep that messaging consistent.
Yes, and of course, the 3 buildings we're talking about are the ones most damaged by the fire as well. The ones on the far end, although we don't see them as having heritage value, no point in them staying there by themselves. And it's safe to assume, right, that the designation stands. It doesn't matter if something has happened to the property, it is still a designated property.
Yep.
Unless council revokes the designation. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a process.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, it is actually. That's true. Yes. Okay, go ahead, Klaus.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Interesting, very interesting thing. A lot of schools of thought from people on the street that I've heard and so forth. Bob Pritchard, does that ring a bell to anybody?
No.
Tony?
Peter Marine?
No,
No,
that's Art Pritchard.
that's art.
It's Bob Pritchard. He called me and we had a very lengthy conversation. I couldn't take any notes because I was on my hands and knees trying to pull weeds at the flower beds downtown. But he went on and on and on. He indicated to me that there was a study done by a company out of Ottawa, Gillespie or something, years ago on that building. Now, Council Smith Falls should have that study probably packed away somewhere. I don't know if there was any historical studies done. He indicated to me that there were several big pieces of equipment, like a 400 horsepower electric motor that's in the basement of that place.
I heard
Oh,
500.
He said 400.
Yeah,
The original equipment is still in there.
Yeah.
Still in there,
and it's still capable of generating electricity. Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah.
Museum
So-
pieces, I would think, you know.
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm supposed to get back to him and maybe sit down with him and make some notes because he wasn't happy with some of the statements that were made in the newspaper. He felt a lot of those statements were false. I didn't get into an argument with him about that. I thought that's not what the newspaper prints is what they'll want to print.
Mhm.
And if you want to argue with what the newspaper prints, you'll be spending the rest of your life
Mhm.
arguing about it. So I said I wasn't going to go there. He didn't really give an opinion whether it should be saved or shouldn't be saved or whatever. Just that this is what happened. This was done to it, and this was this. And I remember there were some guys that I knew years ago that used to work in there, and what have you. So, and I think there's still some people, probably still some guys still alive that used to work in there at one time. So if we do any designation or any renovation or whatever, it'd be interesting to get in touch with those people to get not only the historic about the place, but what it was like to work in there. What was the environment like in there and so forth and what have you. So that's just some information. I will try and get in touch with the gentleman, just see what study he was talking about. And I don't know whether the town has anything filed away somewhere in a filing cabinet, probably in the basement here someplace, about a study that was done on it and so forth. I have one school of thought. I don't have a problem with renovating, and I agree with the main three buildings, the stone building, the brick building, but those side buildings that have a tin roof and the old flat tar roof, I mean, there is, not to me, no historic value whatsoever. What I'm wondering about is across the street, there's a stone building. What is that?
that was the old part of the old Coca-Cola plant.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So it had nothing to do with the mill.
I don't know. It may have had something to do with the
I
mill.
thought somebody told me once that was the button factory.
No,
And when
sorry.
it wasn't, eh?
No, the button factory, when Giant Tiger did the renovations and they dug down and so forth, they found the low doorways into the button factory and found all kinds of buttons.
Well,
I thought it was frosted.
that was Frost and Wood.
Yes, but there was a button factory there too.
The reason I say that is because there's a photograph, an old photograph in Lockwood's book,
Right.
and it says under the photograph, and it's a picture of like that area, you know, the water treatment plant, the Woods Mill, and it says in the far distance you can see the button factory.
Yeah.
Well, why would
You wouldn't be able to see it at Giant Tiger.
no? you
Well,
wouldn't.
unless you could
So
see it through the water. But
It's
anyway,
it's an aside anyway.
when they were digging it down, somebody told me that one time.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So
Mhm.
I'm not 100% sure, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
I think it's irrelevant. The only thing that I'm wondering about is that if it's renovated to a historic value and so forth, what is the purpose of doing that? Like, where are we going to go with it?
Well, Chris is suggesting stabilization first, not necessarily renovating it, but not restoring it so much as
Repurpose.
preserving it and
As what's there.
and using it in a new way without getting rid of all of it. Chris?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Where the engineering report that came back said that there's nothing that would stop it from being redeveloped at the site, you know, into a bigger complex or into a new, like a modern facility. And the report also noted that a lot of the work that needs to be done post-fire, although, you know, it needs to be done right away now because it's open, it's a lot of the same cracks, a lot of the same work that's been repaired even when it was still a water treatment plant. So really all this is doing is stabilizing it as it is and kind of preserving it, you know, in short term. And then it'll be a matter for either the developer to come to the town and say, you know, this is the vision for the site, or, you know, whatever becomes of it from there. But if to get it stabilized before winter is the big thing, because then it buys time for all that planning, right? But there's nothing about this that would limit it by any means that it wasn't limited to before the fire happened.
So is he thinking maybe to do like they did in Miracle with the ruins?
Like that could be an option, but you could also do something like Codes Mill in Perth and put a full facility in.
Yeah, and of course that's where this private contractor, I'll name no names, conflict of interest, is probably still maybe somewhat interested.
Yeah, so there's nothing in this recommendation that would reduce the scope of possibilities for the site. It's still pretty much wide open between, like, on one end you could have a ruins that you could tour through, on the other end you could have I don't know, a conference or banquet facility or a hotel or residences, you know?
It may simply end up being that they build essentially an entirely new structure and skeleton within the existing
Stone.
within the existing stone.
Yeah.
So the stone would not necessarily be load bearing, but it would form the facade. But structurally, there's a new structure inside.
Like the cotton mills in Cornwall.
Yeah, and they need to do that anyway. Like, you look at the Rito Hotel when we approved that work, and the old post office for the earthquake code, right? The earthquake code today is a lot more extensive. So yeah, essentially this leaves it open for redevelopment, leaves it open for an interpretive site, and I think those will be future conversations that we're going to need to have. But at this time, it's just, let's make sure we keep it out of the back of a dump truck, because once it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All we got left is tears.
One final question, the financial implication behind this, who's paying for these studies and what the engineers are doing?
So my understanding was the insurance company paid for the engineered study that came back.
Okay.
If the town goes and does an RFP or a tender process for stabilization quotes, I'm assuming that would be mostly like a staff time expense, but it's either the insurance company or the town end up incurring all expenses associated with any of this stuff, right? It's
There's a town building.
The
Yeah.
town owns it.
yeah,
Town
the
owns
town-
it.
So the town would have to be paying for that. So. Okay, that's a few comments, questions that have been asked on the street. Who the heck's going to pay for this? And if the Heritage Committee wants to keep it, they should pay for it. Listen, we don't have any money.
Still the town.
Yes, we're a town committee.
Yeah,
so,
still
Well,
the town.
we're still the
It
town.
wouldn't make any
Anyway,
difference, would
it
it?
was an interesting argument. One I have to remember that. I said, well, I gotta go. I gotta water some flowers.
Well, and the cost side of it too makes me think, if this was a private corporation that owned a mill on the waterfront and they contaminated, there was contaminated land and there was fire and whatever, we'd be going after them to clean up the site, to recover costs.
Yeah.
But when it's a public entity that ruins the parcel on the waterfront, we all kind of say, oh, can we push this off on a developer? And I think that has been maybe I'm going too far here, but I think that's been a reoccurring problem with this site, that A, makes it hard to redevelop because nobody wants to take on that liability, but then also B, goes back to our issues we've had where we continually say, hey, the site needs to be secured, or, you know what I mean? We're having these issues, or these windows are broken. It's almost that double standard sometimes when it's a public building and we're all a little responsible for it.
It wasn't, if it had been a developer and the building had been let go like that, we'd have been all over them like a chicken on the June bug. But the town just, okay, well, that's okay, it's fine.
But Chris, what happened? There was interest by private developers a year or so ago. So what happened to all that?
It kind of, I think with the canopy or the cannabis bubble, it just kind of fizzled out, I guess, would be the.
Well, yeah, there's still lots of money there. By the certain canopy owner.
Yeah, that
his
proposal.
I know.
Yeah, like I remember when that proposal came to the last council, and everybody was enthusiastic about it. It was going to be this big development, but ultimately it just didn't get off the ground. So maybe it was, whether it was too ambitious or what.
And the
it's off
timing
table
was
now.
bad.
It's a shame it didn't, because it'd be his fault there. His responsibility. So.
You did a great job on the
He
old
sure
post
did.
office. That's all we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we okay now?
Yeah.
We had enough discussion, so are we okay with what the motion is, Carl?
Yeah.
So I have down that C. McGuire moved that the Municipal Heritage Committee recommends that pricing for the stabilization be required and completed for the 3 identified priority buildings prior to demolition of these buildings, and that he will send me specific wording. I guess I'll leave it to the committee as to whether or not you want to see that specific wording before you adopt the motion, or whether you're comfortable proceeding as we are now.
Fine.
Okay, we're okay to go ahead with, okay, so it's been moved, it's been seconded, so all in favor of the motion?
Who seconded it?
Marianne.
Mary Ann?
Okay, thanks.
Yes, we're all in favor. Okay, thank you very much.
I'll send that out there. Everybody will see it. Shouldn't be any surprises in them.
All right, project updates. We haven't had another meeting of the Heritage Register Review Working Group, so not since the last MHC meeting, so we don't have anything to report,
Mhm.
but perhaps the symposium committee does.
We haven't had a meeting. We were supposed to have one today at lunchtime.
Yes, we were to have
Lorraine
one
is
today
away.
at lunchtime. All I can say is that I don't know, Lorraine was working on some things and I don't know where she's at with that. And as for speakers, I have got a reply from Judith Bailey out of Kingston. She said that's not quite her genre on what to speak on, but she's bringing it to her board and she'll get back to me. And I also have some feelers out with some realtors because I would like to think that we could have some kind of a panel where they could give their 2 cents worth about selling or purchasing heritage. And then we're thinking about looking at somebody in insurance so that they can give their perspective and then a homeowner in this panel, and then we can have some questions. That's for one session. And that's as far as we've got so far.
Regarding a district though, is that the subject?
No, the subject was more people not wanting to
Have
their houses or their property designated, to bring forth what it really means as opposed to what they think.
I would, we could set up have a meeting maybe after next Wednesday, the week after, if that's all right, because I'm away most of next week.
You're talking about our heritage. I
Yes,
have to shorten that. It's a tongue twister.
Heritage Register Review. Yes, yes. So maybe the
But
week
we're
after
meeting-
next.
I'm going away.
You're going away.
I'm not available from the 10th
Oh, that's
till something like the 22nd.
Well, let's have it on the 20. We'll do it on the 23rd then.
right.
Oh, okay.
Should do Zoom, Dorothy.
That's all right. No, that's
whenever
okay.
you're
It's all
available.
right.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
Carl?
Should we ask that Lorraine send out an update of what she has as well? I note from the minutes
Yes.
that there's a proposal that the save the dates go out in late July. So
Yes.
I'm interested to
And it's
see
late July.
if there's something that we can help out with on our end in terms of circulating. We have lists of previous attendees, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Jenny was working on that.
Perfect. I've actually had one person, she's been touching base with me every year, wondering if we had a symposium. She's with the Carleton Place Heritage Committee. So
Oh, good.
I was very happy to give her good news this year.
Okay. Well, that's all the formal business that we have. So next item is round table. Chris, go ahead.
So can we do an action item in roundtable? Does it matter? I don't know. I wasn't sure how to.
Round table's pretty flexible.
Okay, so if you look out at the old school, there's I don't know if it's supposed to be imitating a bell tower or whatever they built when they took down the cupola and the architectural feature there. There's pigeons living in it. So I was wondering if somehow we could communicate that to the town and get a response for our next meeting of what the plan is to, secure that.
The cupola next door?
Yeah,
Central school.
Where am I? Yeah, that way. That's
Yeah.
that way. Yeah. Yes. I think it's a great idea.
is that something we can kind of give direction to you, Carol, or?
You can certainly, if the committee would like me to follow up with our community services department, I can certainly do that. It's just an email bringing it to their attention.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl.
Very
I
good.
didn't want to do like you know what I mean,
No.
a big
Yeah.
formal thing, but yeah.
Is there a bell in that cupola? Or is it just like a little structure?
Well,
Yeah.
So I just have pigeons nesting in the cupola of the former central school. Is that enough? Would that be enough information for
Yeah,
staff?
well, it's not even a cupola anymore,
Oh.
right? It's just you know what I mean? You know what they were trying to go for, but it's kind of like
Is this facing which intersection?
facing, I guess, Beckwith Street.
it's a wooden thing up on
Yeah.
top of the roof.
Yeah.
Where there used to be a bell, which
Yes.
But then knowing, yeah, like I don't know.
it got moved to Chimo, did it not?
That one got moved to Chimo, and Hyman Waxman picked up the one from over there on top of it.
So Chimo has the bell.
The
There's
fire
no
bell. He picked it up and took it for scrap. Town clerk called him, told him to get it off the property.
I know where there's a bell.
You're to leave our bells alone, never mind. Brockwell's got one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, 22.
We got two.
I think we have two.
There's two more, you know that.
I know better, yeah.
Okay, class, do you have anything?
Yeah, just, I guess I thought it was going to be on the minutes. A further discussion what Tony brought up about the cemetery out by Jean Vanier School. I took a drive out there
Yeah.
and I can see some of the little dips and so forth, but I've got a major concern with doing anything there with all those homeowners.
That's something
It's-
that's something that
It's
we're going to
above,
be-
that is not any part of us. That goes to the Bereavement Act of 2002. That is completely removed from the Municipal Heritage Committee.
That's something we're going to be discussing with
There's
staff.
government
So
legislation.
we really don't want to pursue it right now at this meeting. So
Okay.
there will be further discussions on
Yeah.
the subject.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Okay. Mary Ann?
No, I have nothing today.
Tony?
Yeah, Carl, what happened on Main Street there? How are we doing there with that temporary housing apartments that in
Oh, next door to
Commercial.
Milano's, you mean? Is
yeah,
that
just
where
down
it
from
is?
Milano's. Remember, it was a temporary thing for 2 years?
Oh, on Main Street.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
That is
Some
residential.
apartments there and
Is
that.
it still
That's-
residential now?
It can't be residential. All it was it was a
It
temporary.
was a temporary. Once the temporary zoning expired, then it no longer, then the residential use would no longer fall off. And it's certainly something that we haven't been called to enforce that. So
Oh, I just wondered, I just going back to that seminar we had, and they said, will you start doing that to your downtown core, and it's a death knell.
yes, what I can say is there is no zoning permission for permanent residential uses there. When council grants a temporary exception and the temporary exception falls off, it does not have, the use that was authorized temporarily does not have the sort of legal non-conforming status that, say, if we gave permanent zoning to allow residential, then it would be grandfathered forever. But in this case, that doesn't apply. So if it indeed still is residential, then there'd be a zoning compliance issue that can be addressed through a complaint to our bylaw folks.
That's it.
Okay.
Early dinner tonight.
Further topics or business? The
Oh,
next,
done? That
next
was easy.
meet-
That was easy.
yeah, next meeting is August 23rd,
Oh, really?
same time, same place. And would someone move we adjourn, please?
I'll do it.
Tony? Okay, meeting adjourned.
Madam Chair, will you bring a birthday cake?